I think I had more fun making Time Flight than any other program, but it was by far, far short of the best story we ever did. But largely, if you think you're doing something good, I have to like what I'm doing, really. So I don't think even in Time Flight there was a time where I was sitting there going, oh, this is terrible, it's not doing this justice. You have to kind of deal with, and I'm a great believer in sometimes good things coming out of compromise. It didn't happen in Time Flight, but but sometimes compromise can be the germ that sort of
the kernel that the mother of invention.
Yes.
Because it was Patrick Troughton who did give me the advice for you.
And what happened was I arrived at BBC, and BBC had this, what they call the horseshoe car park, right in front of the building, which was exclusively for people who were quite important within the BBC. And Patrick had tried to get into the car park and he'd been turned away because he wasn't Dr. Hill anymore. But I drove into the car park. They just waved me through. You're the doctor, in you come. Not him, he was a doctor. That was years ago. Anyway, but it was my doctor, yes, exactly. But it was, I knew him because he'd done an episode of All Creatures. And I just sort of said, John, I'm sorry about that. And he said, oh, that's all right. I said, and he just said, do three series and then get out. And it was kind of good advice, really, I think.
Because in season 3, and you're talking about, you'll roll with the punches, but then there's the Merca, and that's around the time. Am I lying?
The Merca.
Things were starting.
So that was when you made your decision.
I mean, we had a lot of dodgy monsters in Doctor Who, and I did make the point on several occasions that if you covered someone in masses of rubber and dangly foamy bits, and then you had perfectly healthy soldiers who were armed, who, rather than just walk around the corner away from this thing, they would sort of go, and you think, what's the logic in that? Run, just run, it's easy. So we were, but that was just the nature of Doctor Who, I guess. It was fun, but
the Monster of the Week.
Hmm?
The Monster of the Week.
The Monster of the Week, yeah. But they were quite often, these poor actors who were put inside these giant rubber outfits and could move no more than about a mile an hour.
Favorites to perform with? Favorite monsters to perform with? Did you have? I'm sure you've said it before. What were your favorite monsters to perform with?
Favorite monsters?
Like either.
Okay, I actually, weirdly was rather fond of the pteroleptals. The visitation. They never really came back again, but that may have just been that the head pteroleptal was an actor called Michael Melia. He was very good and very funny. The Cybermen, I thought in my time were good. I thought they were an update on the original Cybermen.
Yeah, they were fantastic.
David Banks as the chief Cyberman.
Yeah.
He was fantastic.
Guess you'd have to be. So we're coming to the end of your era now, but in there you did get to do the anniversary with everybody. How that feel with having Patrick and John Pertwee and all the companions. Talk a little bit about that experience.
The five
Doctors anniversary.
Five Doctors was great to be a part of. I think that John Nathan Turner made a mistake in thinking there would be problems because egos, too many egos on the set. He felt so he made this decision to keep us apart for a lot of the program, and I was fairly young, and I was quite happy to defer to people like John Pertwee, who thought he was the greatest doctor, and that's fine because he was very protective of the program. Patrick was far more, I suppose, like me. It was a job that he did, and they didn't ever manage to persuade Tom to do it, which is a shame. I don't know why he didn't do it, because I think he was just too close to it. He was still trying to escape from it and distance himself from the program. But we each had our own strand, and then it was just a shame. I think it would be much nicer if we were together for longer, that's all. Because I didn't have a problem, and there was no bad blood between Patrick and John, as it turned out. And I think we had an actor playing, he was the department actor, and everyone got on very well actually. But it was still an enormous fun to do. You know, I'm acting with these former doctors, but as John said to me, you are the doctor.
Is that Tom or Wax Standard?
That's wax.
That is waxwork.
Yeah.
That's not Tom Baker at all, I'm afraid you wouldn't tell that. So that's a waxwork from
Completely lifelike.
Can't tell the difference, can you?
So,
Good thing for British weather, otherwise you would have melted.
yeah, you would have actually.
Why are the other four all so pasty?
Because they're British.
They're getting on.
Old
She's
age.
the only one with the tat.
And that's not the only special you've come back for, because there was the little Dimensions in Time for charity.
That's
Dimensions in Time.
hilarious.
Yes, no one knew what that was about. I've never met anyone who could explain dimensions in time to me.
But the point is that you did that. You did, of course, the Five Doctors, and you came back for that.
Yeah.
You came back for Time Crash, and, you know, you might have shown up recently in other recent
Maybe.
adventures of a good doctor. I mean, this is great that I don't think that the show has never gotten over you, Peter. I just want to keep bringing you back. And rightly so. Yeah. But you've always come off just with this love of like, of course I would come back, because you're the one who does these wonderful comedy sites. Like when you can't make it to a convention, you send a fun little a video to.
Oh, yes.
Tell us about it for those of us who maybe aren't aware of some of the Gallifrey videos you used to make when you couldn't.
Yeah. But that was the beginning. The video I sent to Gallifrey one was the beginning of what turned into the Five-ish Doctors reboot years later, because it was just a fun thing to do. And you know, there's a scene. I don't know if everyone's seen the Five-ish Doctors reboot. Yeah. Oh, that's good. Well, there's a scene where I get into the TARDIS, thinking it's going to take me somewhere, and of course we're just inside this black box. And that's a direct, really follow-on from the Gallifrey video, where I go in and discover, you know. So it all in my head tied together, but of course I was aware that people sort of had to have seen all these sort of two short videos I did before. But it was, it got out of hand, the Five-ish Doctors reboot. It was meant to be about 10 minutes long. That's how I planned it, and then I thought, I wonder if they'll let me film a little bit inside the Doctor Who studio. So I sent the script to the head of the sort of BBC Wales, and they said, "Oh no, come down. We need to talk to you about this." And I thought, "Oh my goodness, what did they say?" Anyway, they said, "Here's some money. Go and make it longer." Yeah, so and it just grew and grew and grew, and things like the John Barrowman sequence was. They said to me, but they were always terribly wary, the BBC. So I wrote this joke where John Barrowman is reluctant to give us a lift because it turns out he's hiding his family inside the car. And they said, no, you can't do that because people might think that John Barrowman's gay. And I said, yes, that's the joke. And he said, yeah, but I'm not sure, we're not sure that he wants everyone to know that. And I said, he's the most gay person you'll ever meet.
Anyway, closed about Barrowman. He's open, all right? He's wide open. But it was great. I'd love to hear that it started with doing your little videos, because you had this video camera, you just felt the need to film. A lot of people did when we advented having a personal camera around you. Now, talk about a hero in real life imitating art and whatnot. At one point, this camera that you would take around with you to film things was snatched and stolen, and the guy ran for it. Why don't you tell us what happened, Peter?
Oh, well, the true story, this is about when my son was born, right? So, yes, what happened was, I had taken the video camera, and my wife was in the hospital in labour. So I thought, I'll take a camera up to video, not like giving birth, but just, when after the birth. Then when I turned it on, the camera had run out of battery, and it turned out I forgot to charge it up. So I never actually had the video of Joel being born. But I left it in the car, drove home, and then someone broke into my car. I just heard this woman shouting, and I ran outside, and my window was smashed. And the woman across the road said, "He took your camera, he went that way." So I don't know what happened to me, because I'm not a brave person at all. I just got in the car and drove up the road around. I figured I know exactly where it's going. He's going up to Belsize Village. And I drove up, and I did that thing you don't see in films. I drove up, slammed the brakes on, and then left the car doors open as I leapt out. And somebody said, I said, "Have you seen someone running away?" He went, "Yeah, down there. And this poor chap who'd stolen my camera had driven down a cul-de-sac. And he run down a cul-de-sac. And so he had nowhere to go, so he turned around and faced me. And I said, Did you take my camera?" And he said, "Get out of my way." And then he went like that and made noises of a knife. So he had this big coat on, and he sort of went, and I thought, the chances are if he's making the noise of a knife, he probably So I just grabbed him and sat on him for about 20 minutes. And then there were people in the pub who were just looking out the window going, "Who's that bloke off the telly?" And I'm sitting on top of this man who's just breaking his good out of the night, who knows? I like to imagine that, I was really, really brave. And eventually, so he was struggling all the time, this bloke, and I was lying on top of him. And then eventually, somebody phoned the police, and the policeman turned up, and I'm still lying on top of this bloke, and he's still trying to get away. And he said, the policeman said, "All right, son, game's up," and the guy just gave up. Well, I've been lying on top of him for half an hour, and he's struggling away, and all this young policeman says, "All right, son, game's up." And they put handcuffs on him and took him away.
Peter always gets his man.
That's my heroic story. It's about the only one you'll find in my life. So,
You gotta promote that. No, actually that happens all the time, doesn't it, Peter? Of course. So the era comes to an end. You decide that the 3 years is up, and it's time for us to move on. And so then Colin takes over the role, and then you keep us again coming back in these wonderful specials and whatnot. And then of course there's Big Finish. Now you were in from the beginning with Big Finish.
Yeah. I was, yes. The first one we did was Colin, Sylvester, and myself.
Sirens of Time.
Sirens of Time, well done, yeah. And I had no idea what that was about either. Does anyone know what that was about?
Yeah, they did the same thing where they had you guys separate until the end.
Oh, you do know what it's about?
Yeah.
See me afterwards. It was a great idea. And so we were all very keen to do to do more of it. It was great fun, all being, we'd never really been together anyway, but we were back. And so they carried on Big Finish, and then we did, our own Doctor stories. And it really filled the gap, because at that time, the series had gone into hiatus, and it was the wilderness years of Doctor Who.
And even your daughter Georgia was started out on some early Big Finish, like the Ice Warriors one, I believe, the first one, Georgia.
Oh, Georgia, yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. She was in, I think, it was called Red Dawn or something.
The Ice Warriors. So, and of course your future son-in-law was also involved as well.
He got involved.
So anyway, the Big Finish, at least, do you feel that thanks to Big Finish, we're able to, do things for the character that you felt the show never quite teed up for you? Like, oh God, I wish the character was able to do this. Oh, finally I get to do that on Big Finish with the character.
Yeah, it's audio, so there's so much more you can do with audio. I think Colin likes to say that the sets are much better than And it is kind of true. You know, you're inside someone's head. So you can do all sorts of things, and you can tell stories that you maybe couldn't have done on television, and you can get good actors will come in at a moment's notice. Oh look, there's me in someone else's studio. That's the cupboard under the stairs. Yeah. I think that's the early version before I turned it into the TARDIS.
It's a round thing.
Yeah.
What are the round things?
I think they're not on that shot, but I think I did that after. I updated it. During coronavirus, I just constantly updated my recording studios and bought bigger and better microphones and things I didn't really need. But it was just really good. And then I decided to make it look like the TARDIS.
Anyway, so it's great that the characters resonated on to this day in Big Finish, so we appreciate you coming on with us.
Yeah, no, it's great.
And then to work with your companions. Now, speaking of working with your companions again, before we talk about the white elephant,
That's a TARDIS, yeah.
before we talk about the white elephant in the room, please briefly, there's new life, of course, with the series being released on Blu-ray, the box sets.
Oh, yeah.
But there's even further life with Behind the Sofa, with Russell Network with Behind the Sofa. Please talk about getting together with them, having a go at the series, seeing episodes that you hadn't seen before and reacting to them. I mean, it's just a wonderful.
Yeah,
Double box, I know.
We're horrible, Janet and I, because we established it started off with us. You know, when we did the audios for our own DVD. The commentaries. We just sort of, as long as the director wasn't there, that would spoil the fun. And if the director wasn't there, we would just he'd give the show, affectionately.
Have a go at it.
Just have a little go at it. Yeah. And I saw no reason when for the box rate sets they sat us down in front of other people's stories. I never saw any reason to change that thing. So we watched I think Sylvester McCoy story, and we were quite horrible about that. In a nice way, we weren't really horrible. But anyway, so then I met Colin, and he said, "Are you doing these behind the sofa things?" I said, "Oh yeah." I said, "I'm really horrible." And he said, "Oh, but I'm always terribly nice about everyone." And I thought, "Oh no, I got this completely wrong." Anyway,
they are wonderful.
It's too late now.
Yeah, well, they are infectiously fun. I look forward to the box sets now, not just to have them all in one, but now I want to see them behind the sofa. They're so brilliant.
We just have to do something about Janet's language. Because, sometimes it's too much for BBC Blu-ray sets.
Editing is beautiful.
We have to retake it on the basis that could you cut down the swearing.
All right, so
BBC bleeps.
You've resurfaced once again. Let's talk about it. Let's just get into it. Power the Doctor comes around. You get the phone call. Just walk us through this whole experience to ultimately, see with Janet again. The two of you.
Yeah, well, I knew Janet was in it actually. I think before I knew I was in it, because she of course tells me. Although she wasn't allowed to, I'm in Doctor Who. And then they just rang me up and said, "Well, would you be in Doctor Who too?" Well, yeah, now that definitely that'll ruin our party. So no, it was a very nice scene. I never got sent the whole episode. So all I had was literally the pages. That you see me in.
Your sides.
Yeah, the sides that you see me in. And so I have no idea what went on in the episode at all. So when I was doing the scene with Janet, no idea what came before it or after it. No idea what I was talking about when we were sitting on the rock, at the edge of the world, at the end of the world, whatever it was.
Worlds.
Yeah, worlds, yeah. But it was still great, very nice to be asked, very nice to go along and do it. And they remade my costume as well, on that I could actually fit into. Anyway, it was very good, and Janet was terribly worried because she hadn't done any acting. She said for since she left Doctor Who, really. Yeah, so she was very worried about it. She rang me after she'd seen it and said, "I don't think I'm very good at it. I said, in my experience, you have to watch yourself twice, because I don't know how you could, but you know, I was very aware that when I watched myself the first time, all you're doing is looking at you. So you go, oh, I wish I hadn't made that face, oh, I wish I hadn't turned there. And when you watch it again, you can forget that, and then you can just watch it as it. So once you watch it twice, you decided that she was okay.
Bless, look about. Well, but you saw when it finally aired, and you were, how do was it good?
Sadly, when it actually aired, I was on the other side in a different program at the same time. I was when it aired in Britain, The Power of the Doctor, I was on a program on another channel on the other side that I just made. So I was on two sides at the same. I was on both channels, and the series I was doing on the other side was with Bradley Walsh, who was also in The Power of the Doctor. So he was on two channels as well, and so I didn't know which one to watch really.
I think anyone here would tell you, Peter, you really need to sort out your priorities.
I did end up watching The Power of the Doctor rather than the Larkins, which is the thing on the other side. I didn't really. Is it me now? I don't understand it anymore. When I was watching Doctor Who, when it came back, and I would sit and watch it with my two young boys, for the first 5 years, probably through Chris Eccleston, through David, and into Matt Smith, they would sit on either side of me and they would say, "What's going on, Daddy?" And I would explain it to them. And then as we moved up into the later Matt Smith years and the beginning of the Stephen Moffat years, we'd be sitting on the sofa watching and I'd be going, "What's going on?" And they'd have to explain it to me. And so I got out of the habit. I didn't really understand The Power of the Doctor. I have to say. I had no idea what was going on. It was very impressive and looked magnificent. I have no idea.
I think everyone here can keep that a secret. No,
All right.
No,
Well, maybe if they'd sent me the script, I would know what was going on.
I
They chose not to send me the script. So I've only watched it once. And maybe I need to watch it 2 or 3 times to understand what's going on, because I'm getting on.
The fluid link broke, that's why you couldn't understand it. The fluid link broke, that's why you couldn't understand
that
it.
what it is? Yeah, that's right, I couldn't understand.
So it's a fluid link, isn't it? All right, I'm going to ask you one last question, personal question, before I turn it over to the audience for some Q&A. Staten Island's own actor, comedian Peter Davison. Are you aware of him? Are you a fan of his work? I've got it.
Peter Davison.
Yeah, we got a whole Pete Davidson out there,
Yeah.
and every time he does something in the press,
Pete
Davidson steals Kardashian away from Kanye.
Are we talking about his work or his romantic?
Are you so aware of him? And I was like, but I'm thinking to myself, God, Peter's everywhere. And that's the headline.
They clearly thought that this convention, because they put Peter Davidson, which is his spelling, so maybe they thought he was going to turn up.
I had to ask if you're aware. All right, anyway, so let's give it up to you guys for questions. I'll go ahead and start with you, sir. How you doing today?
You were in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
I was in the Hitchhiker's Guide.
Played the Dish of the Dead.
Yes.
Okay? I've watched that so many times, and I cannot hear your voice or picture that that's you.
Really?
Now, I'll ask you, can you still do the voice, and would you? And did you enjoy doing the part?
Right.
You can demur if you don't.
I am the dish of the day, and may I interest you in parts of my body? I can't remember the exact line, sadly, but I told the story yesterday, but if anyone was there, I'll repeat it. I got cast as this Amelia Major Cow, the dish of the day, and I had no idea how to do the part, really, how to play the part, what voice you could think that this character. But in that story of Hitchhikers, there was oh, there I am, yeah. That's obviously, I had the head on by the time we filmed it. But it was sort of 6 hours in makeup and 3 minutes on the set. Anyway, Dave Prowse was in it.
Yes.
And he was playing the sort of heavy for the Hot Black Desiato. And he would tell me stories.